Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
And
And
I'm
our
Paul
guest is,
Livingston, the president of the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association.
and we are where's my cue? There it is, the FAIRtax Guys. All
Yeah,
right, there we go. How do you like my background, Scarborough?
yeah. I
When
under
the,
Alaska trip is you're going to actually be able to see that because we're used to you're ain't no such thing as northern lights in Florida. Let me tell you.
there isn't. By the time this episode streams, I will actually be in Alaska on a cruise ship, probably too far south to see the northern lights like this, because there's like 20 hours of daylight in Alaska this time of year. You don't see much darkness at all, but that's what we're going to be. All right, let's get going and welcome our guest once again. Paul Livingston, as he mentioned, is the president of the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association, an organization with which I have some ties as well. So, Paul, thanks for taking your time to talk with us today. Appreciate it, bud.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, what we want to get into today on FAIRtax Power Radio, if you remember several weeks ago, Jade Wiley was with us, and Steve Hayes has mentioned this as well. It's been pretty big news in the FAIRtax movement. A polling company, one of the most accurate polling companies in the country, named Quantus Insight, was hired to test people's opinion on the income tax system. And they asked a very simple question: would you or would you not like to see the income tax replaced with another taxation system? And the result of that question was rather astounding. People all across the political spectrum, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everybody across all three groups like that, a majority of voters wanted to see the income tax replaced, which is great news for us in the fair tax movement. But since we got all that great news, how do we get people, to become aware of that? Especially the people up in Washington that are writing the laws, and with the reason we have the income tax system is because it benefits them, not because it benefits us. But when we got that news, we had to figure, all right, we've got to get this out. And Paul, he is on the program with us this week because he has been very instrumental in the Fair Tax Movement's press release program. So, Paul, let me just toss it to you and get you to explain briefly exactly what the Fair Tax Movement is trying to accomplish with these press releases that you're sending out.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the FAIRtax Guys, Bob and Bob, for your dedication and weekly broadcasts to get the word out, to inform people about the fair tax and what all the great things it'll do for themselves and our country, and just make our whole lives much better, renew our lost freedom, liberty, and civil rights. But as far as the press release, a press release is a message to the media, the newspapers, the radio stations, and the internet and the streaming services. All these different media outlets can be communicated with and talked to, sent them a message with a press release. That's what a press release is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this national release, and I had no idea what the results would be. We were looking for the truth. What is the truth in taxation? And the results, I'm going around barefoot. I can't keep socks on my feet. That blew my socks off. And a majority of people, a majority of the voters, or the Republican, Democrats, Independents, whatever, like this idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, the media has been ignoring the fair tax for decades. I'm interested in how well received this particular press release was. You've got a bunch of numbers there that you've been sending them out, and my eyes kind of glaze over when I read them. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at, so that's why you're on the program this week to explain it all. How well is this press release resonating with a press that has not been too kind to us?
Okay. Well, we just got the 30-day results. And the two meaningful metrics, one is release views and hits. And we have gotten over 2,679 reviews and hits. Now, I asked the company that does the actual release for us, is how does that compare to a typical release? And the average is about 500. So our release got a lot of traction. And not only that, the first release, we got one the next day, another one in 48 hours, and then one in 5 days. Well, after 5 days, we had 1,383. So in the next 25 days, we gained another 1,200. So this release had legs. The media was going back to it, and that is a great sign. The other is engagement actions. This is, did they share it with somebody else, or did they pass it on, or whatever? And again, we had 78 engagement actions, but that was again much higher than usual. So as far as the results, the metrics we got were very, very encouraging. But the real metric is how many articles are written, and those will come out over time. So far, I'm aware of one. It's hard to track that kind of information, but we got people thinking, and that's the important thing. That the actual press release kind of danced around the issue of what is the fair tax. Once we define that and hone in on what are the real hot buttons, we can continue to build our message and our messaging to further improve it.
Scarborough, you run the radio station up there. Give folks a bit of an insight on how media people receive and work with these press releases.
Well, very simply, municipalities, state governments, nonprofits, all have marketing arms, and in some cases engage the private service to create press releases that go out to media. It could be our station, it could be the TV stations, newspaper, even social media now have matured into their own digital content creators, where people are engaged in promoting various categories, whether it be social issues or health or food. Big one there, food. So we receive via email in most cases, and sometimes phone calls from companies that want us to talk about what their client is up to, or in some cases a direct response from someone who is in a smaller business that doesn't have the financial ability to pay for a company to craft and distribute the press releases. But they're basically, you've seen the stories on maybe your favorite media platform online. Here's the date. It's July 25th, 2025, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Paul Livingston is on his first recording of FAIRtax Power Radio. And then there's these details. Then there's information about that company below the actual details of what the press release is all about. But it's usually to engage interest. And if you couple what Paul has done with other social media initiatives or other conversations, you'll find great success. And so we get on a daily basis, sometimes hourly, updates for events or initiatives that are taking place that may be of interest to us and our listeners, of course.
Okay, well, Paul, let me ask you something. Do you have information on exactly which media outlets are picking up on this FAIRtax press release?
Yes, we do.
Well, would you kindly enlighten us as to who's listening to our message?
Bob, I sent you that information.
Well, you're on the program. I'll let you talk about
It is a boatload of information. I mean, listen, I know the New York Times, the LA, what's the LA tape, and the Chicago Tribune, and major newspapers and radio stations, and NBC and CBS and CNN and I mean,
how
all
about
kinds
some
of people, all kinds of media outlets receive the information. Now,
how about some of the business type oriented channels like CNBC or Fox Business? Are they looking at this?
well, they get the opportunity to look at it. Now, those people probably have how many? I don't know how many reporters there are in Fox News, but I'm sure they're segregated into various categories like political and taxes and football and sports and whatever.
Fox has a whole channel, Fox Business Channel, and of
Yeah.
course CNBC is the same. So I would think if considering what a boon the fair tax would be to the economy and business, that these business organizations, that these business media people should be all over this.
Yes. But remember, news is a competitive subject.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump can steal all the news in a minute in a given day.
He can suck a lot of oxygen out of the room in a short time.
And so can a lot of other people. And how many times, I mean, disasters, there's nothing good about a disaster. But they get reported upon, and we see these poor people, and it's sad. But we get to watch that on the evening news. Every time there's an airplane, very few airplane crashes, by the way. I mean, nobody talks about this. It's not news.
I hope not, because I'm going to be riding one for a long way.
When I win the lottery, I'm going to start a new channel, the Good News Channel Station.
Oh, I'll watch it. Okay, good deal.
There'll be nothing but good news. But anyway, so what was the point of the conversation is
just trying to think who's picking up on this and what are they doing with it?
Yeah, well, it's getting picked up to some degree, and they're thinking about it to some degree. Now, I have email addresses for some of the writers at the Wall Street Journal. Mm-hmm. And I send them this stuff. I kind of challenge them. Write about this. I dare you. I don't really do that, but that's what I'm thinking of. But so far, there hasn't been a real breakthrough, but it's going to happen. As sure as you and I are talking to each other and looking at each other, there's going to be a breakout. Something is going to happen, and that's going to take off. The fair tax is going to take off like wildfire. One way for sure is for Trump to start talking about it. He could have so much fun talking about the fair tax. Oh, I put words in his mouth all the time about why he likes a deal. Well, yeah. There's no deal in fair tax for to make a deal. We don't want to make a deal. We want to change. We want to reform, to eliminate all the bad practices and deceptions and of our present income payroll tax system.
But politicians get judged all the time and get reelected or not reelected based on how well the economy does. And given that the fair tax would be rocket fuel for the economy, I'm astounded that more politicians aren't running on it and go back to their voters and say, "Hey, look what I did for you."
Yeah, and Doge, I was hoping something would come out from Doge about foreign aid. I'd like to know how much of that foreign aid, we give $100 million to company or country X. How much of that money bounces back to campaign funds for the politicians that voted for that bill?
Probably a bunch, but that's kind of outside the scope of what we really need to get into today.
Yes, yes.
I'm really interested in getting your explanation of what all those numbers you've been sending out are actually telling us as far as how much effect we are having in the media, which has, again, not been our friend too much in the past.
Right. It's like I said that a press release is kind of a poor man's advertising campaign, and companies, in every quarter, companies send out a press release on their financial figures, for example. That's like clockwork. And the media wants facts. They don't want opinions. They want facts. If you give it an opinion, it's best you have a quote in that opinion. And our press release ends in a quote from Steve Hayes about just all the benefits and nice things that happen with the fair tax. But I encourage the viewers to get involved and donate and contribute and pass on the word to their friends and neighbors.
All right, Scarborough, you can wake up and ask a question now.
I've been listening and contemplating my commentary around what Paul is doing, and a lot of it has to do with impression. The impression first within our organization. The second impression is as a press release goes out and who it goes out to and who's interested, and then how that press release is crafted. Obviously, the Qantas research report talked not so much about the fair tax, but about the generalities of getting rid of the Internal Revenue Service and things that are hot button topics. So the impression now has to come together between the frustration with Washington governance and what the fair tax can do financially for families and for individuals and for businesses. So as those press releases continue to go out, and as we continue to do our program and our listeners are engaged, and all of the work for all of the volunteers within the organization across the country, there will be a connection. And like Paul said a minute ago, it's going to hit with somebody at some point and the floodgates are going to open. Is it going to be caused by, hey, this is actually pretty good? Or is it going to be caused by some fiscal crisis in Washington that we can't get out of without throwing HR 25 in the mix to begin talking about it in earnest? So the press release becomes one of the vehicles to maintain the exposure, the HR 25, the Fair Tax Act, tax on consumption. And people start realizing a great tax on consumption is the fair tax. And then you have the people that are fighting against it, and you have to hit all of the positives and explain again and again and again how the fair tax is not a challenge for low-income earners or large families with minimal things like that. So what the press release does is it creates one more point of contact with media people primarily, but then you have a place like PR Newswire, which is a service that you can, companies pay them to do the distribution work for organizations. We have a group here in Winston-Salem that does nothing but press releases for businesses. It's either going to be a long form page, or it's going to be come see this ribbon cutting on Saturday morning at 10, and those kinds of things. So the crafting of the message, focusing on those hot buttons like in the Internal Revenue Service, like untax up to poverty level, and so on, create that great opportunity for we, the volunteers and the folks that are listening and this message too is for our wonderful listeners and viewers out there for the show, to get involved and have those conversations and distribute the information, for example, that Paul puts out, and in terms of the press releases. So that's my concern is that within that survey result, there wasn't a whole lot of people saying, "Hey, the fair tax is it." We've got some heavy to do on the way to creating that connection between a tax on consumption and ending the Internal Revenue Service and all those great benefits, and HR 25, which has been sitting out there for many years.
Yeah, well, one of the questions in that Quantas survey was, have you specifically heard of the fair tax? And we got kind of some mixed results on that one. The overall number was somewhat disappointing, but it was interesting to see that when you break it down by age groups, the younger demographics are more aware of the fair tax than the older demographics. Paul, how can we use our press releases to bring both of those numbers even higher?
Well, the press release is measuring, or the survey was measuring what exists, and we just have to keep our message, get it out there, and we need funds in the worst way to amplify our voice. And you've mentioned my name a couple times, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that this was a team effort. This press release was a team effort by a small group of volunteers that worked up. The actual questionnaire was designed by the release company, and then a group of us worked on honing it, if you will, and changing it to better meet what we thought would be our goals and objectives. So there were a lot of people that worked on this project, and it was Rich Germain's idea to do the survey. I've been doing press releases for a number of years now, for about 12 actually, and but this is really a great idea to do the survey, and we'll just build on that. We just keep building on it, and we're going to reach the tipping point. We're going to reach the tipping point.
Okay, I did notice that we have an archive of all of the press releases. It's under the news tab at fairtax.org. Is it okay if, let's say, somebody out in Boise, Idaho wants to, kind of forward that press release on to their local radio station out there? Can people use that archive to go ahead and just continue to try to distribute these things?
That's a wonderful idea, Bob. That is a great idea. If you find an article or information that you think is of value to promote the fair tax, please pass it on to your network. You can become another voice. I'm talking to your audience, not you, Bob. And Bob,
okay,
you guys are your voice, but everybody. And I've heard this was from Steve Hayes, the president and chairman of the board of Americans for Fair Taxation. The best way to reach a politician is to pick up the phone and call that number and leave them just a short message of, please co-sponsor the Fair Tax Act, and leave a brief message of why you like the idea. And you'll get some junior associate that answers the phone, but it's their job to take the notes. And when you're asking them, ask them personally, hey, how would you like to keep your whole paycheck?
That sounds like a good idea.
And recruit them as well. But leave a message for that congressman and their two senators. We need somebody to support this bill in the Senate. We've had them in the past, and right now we don't get them.
Right.
But
we got about 3 minutes left here, Scarborough, if you want to get the last word in.
Well, You know me, and the last word takes me 3 minutes.
That's why I thrust it to you when we got 3 minutes left.
Okay, so go to fairtax.org, follow the path that Paxton just mentioned. Go to these press releases and get there on a regular basis. As many press releases as Paul puts out, you should begin to build your own mailing list or your own email list of local media contacts that you can forward the press releases to. And that would be a great benefit for everybody that's watching and listening to be able to do that. The information has been crafted in such a way. And those conversations that we always talk about that we have in our daily affairs with people. And like Paul just said, hey, how would you like to keep all your paycheck? And I remember Ron and Elaine Malero would go to lunch or dinner somewhere, and they'd have the little cards, the business cards with them, and they'd leave it with the tip for the wait staff. So the small contact making that impression, the same thing that we're talking about with the press releases can happen on a one-on-one basis. And that is another organic way to grow an understanding and maybe even a question or two. People go, wow, really, that exists? If you go back to the survey, it appears that there needs to be a lot more of that than we're involving ourselves in. And I'm talking about myself included on a regular basis.
Okay, well, 2 of your 3 minutes are now up, so we've got a minute left to Paul. Thank you for all that you do on behalf of the FAIRtax movement. Firstly, for spearheading these press release things. Appreciate you taking time to talk to us on FAIRtax Power Radio today. I will give you the last word. Actually, go.
My last words are two things. One, copy and paste. Send it on. Copy and paste it. And you mentioned the FAIRtax store where you can get free the pocket cards. That in the front there's the information about the problems with our present tax code, and this on the back of the card is a solution, and it's a 2-part solution: a tax on consumption versus production, and a prebate, to make this thing fair for everybody, to make this tax system fair. And it puts you back in control of how much tax you pay and what your net tax rate is. With the FAIRtax, you control, not government controlling you with the FAIRtax.
Excellent. All righty. Well, that is going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching, listening, sharing the videos. That helps a great deal. Paul, again, thank you for talking to us. We will see what we can do about having you back at a future date. But until we meet again, that's going to be it for this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
Bob Scarborough.
And Paul Livingston.
The FAIRtax Guys reminding you the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you will demand it.
So what do you need from me to get these taxes collected?
Glad you asked, because there is a fair amount of information you need to be aware of.
That's your tax plan?
Oh, no, this is just the revisions for this year's tax plan. What I need from you is you need to keep track of all of your income, as well as any taxes that you've already paid. Also, any gifts that you received or gifts you've given to churches or charities or individuals throughout the entire year. Do you do any side jobs?
Every now and again.
Great, because there's some more information about that right here. Everything you need to know right here. So just simply compile that, send it in to us. Be careful, make sure there's no mistakes. If we do find mistakes, or maybe we can fine you or, throw you in jail. So you might want to be aware of that.
And what do you need from me?
As an individual, nothing. As a business owner, or if you're doing side jobs, yes, you would have to collect taxes on that, but, well, it's all right here.
Can I get a copy of that?